Hi, designers. Today I am here with Farren Celeste. We are going to post this one. I know I told you guys we weren't doing this as much, but we are posting this one on both the podcast and the YouTube channel. So we're excited if you're here on the YouTube channel seeing us do this interview. If you're on the podcast, Farren and I are going to dig deep into some of the things that she's done to become a designer who does so many things with SVG files, and in specifically her niche of paper flowers. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I think you guys are going to love this because so often when we have a guest on, we are digging into like how they got started. And so many of you are in that place. So I'm so excited to have Farren. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So actually, before we turned things on and started recording, we were just talking about, I met Farren because we invited her to come speak at our design summit in November of 2023. We were just talking a little bit about it. She did an amazing job, did this awesome tutorial on using layers in Illustrator. And I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about that, but like what made you decide to, first of all, teach that? And then I'd love to dig into your backstory. So like, why did you decide to teach that?
So I decided to teach that because it's a common problem I see with other people's designs. So I definitely, when I go to make a project, I'm designing most of my own stuff. But every once in a while, if I'm in a rush or something, I'll download an SVG file from a different designer and I'll open it up in the cutting machine software and it'll just be a hot mess. Like I'm having to do so much work in there just to kind of get it ready to cut. And I realized that I think it's just because people don't have knowledge about the layers panel, because with SVG file design specifically, I feel like there's not a ton of information out there as how to create really well designed, organized files. I know that was my experience when I was still learning. So everything I've done has just been trial and error, figuring it out. And that the process, the way that I use the layers panel is something that I have just learned over years of creating these designs. And I figured, I was like, I don't think a lot of people know that this little hidden gem is in here. And then I know one time also I took like a summit for stationers, and she was doing the girl that was presenting was doing a presentation in Illustrator, and she was completely ignoring the layers panel. And she's like, oh, wait, I don't know why this isn't working. That's fine. We'll just put this over here. And I'm like, no, it's in the layers panel. And I feel like it just hides over there on the side and people ignore it. But it is such a handy tool and it makes all the difference. I do think it's kind of funny, though, because when I was presenting on that topic at the summit, the feedback I was getting during the live was a bit like, oh, wow, this is kind of time consuming. And I thought to myself, yeah, it is, but that's what makes a good product at the end. So,
Isn't that interesting what people focus on?
yeah, I'm like, so yes, it does take time, but I promise it saves you so much more time in the end, because it's either you can organize it up front, you send it into your cutting machine and it's ready to go, or it's a hot mess when you put it into the cutting machine software and then you've got to piece things together and move things around there. So it's just kind of where you want to, put your time.
It's totally true. I love that. So good. So, I mean, you guys can already hear that Farren's done a little bit of trial and error, but she has already a successful designer in her own right. So, will you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Sure. So if this is your first time seeing my face or hearing me, I'm Farren of Farren Celeste. My name's like Karen, but with an F and two R's. I promise, just the spelling, not the attitude, but that's just the way I tell people how to remember my name. But I actually am a registered nurse turned paper artist. So my story is a little bit of a long one, but it's kind of crazy how things worked out. So when I was still working as a nurse, I've always been really creative. I've had all this creative energy that just needed a place to go. And it was kind of a time in my life also where I was starting to get kind of burnt out with nursing. I loved being a nurse, but I didn't like everything that came with it. I hated working holidays. I hated working weekends. At the end of my career, I was working in anesthesia recovery. So I also did a lot of on-call hours. And I was just ready to have a consistent schedule. I was ready to kind of make my own hours and not have to just be under the fluorescent lights in the hospital all the time. So I've had all this creative energy that also needed a place to go. And it was at the time of my life when all of my friends were getting married or having babies. So I started using my cutting machines to create decorations for parties for them. So that's kind of how I got started with using the cutting machines. People started seeing the stuff I was creating for the parties, and I kind of started this little side hustle creating paper products for parties. I had a customer request. She was doing a first birthday party for her daughter, and the theme was first floral birthday party or something like that. So she wanted florals in her party, and I went to see what was online for flowers, and there were a lot of felt flowers. There were some paper flowers, but they were all the like giant flowers that go on your wall. And I was looking for something that was smaller and realistic. So I kind of found some stuff in Design Space, but nothing was very realistic looking, and it wasn't sorry, I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I promise there's a point to this story. So nothing was very realistic looking, and I felt like it also didn't come with instructions. So it was really difficult to kind of work with. So I just kind of created my own, and that's when I discovered that I was having this problem where I was finding things that were similar to what I was looking for, but not quite. So I taught myself how to create my own designs to cut with the cutting machine. So that's when I started learning how to use Illustrator to create my own.
So that's what I was going to ask. Like, so did you know Illustrator before this?
No, I'm completely self-taught. So I kind of saw this problem where I wasn't finding what I was looking for with what was available online. I was like, how do I create my own stuff? Because the cutting machine software was a bit limited at the time. So that's how I started teaching myself Illustrator. So keep in mind though, this is not over a series of months. This is over a series of years. And I feel like people, when they hear these stories, they think, oh, that sounds really overwhelming. It takes time. This did not happen overnight. So I was kind of doing this side hustle, creating my own products with the intent of creating my own business to sell my physical products. So that's where I was at. And then my husband's job moved us to the Netherlands. So I switched then at that point because I had developed this customer base with these physical products. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm living internationally. There's no way that I can ship this stuff out. People are not going to spend international rates to have their party decor mailed. So I had no intention of selling my digital templates, and then international move forced me to do that. So I started start selling invitations and paper flowers, and the paper flowers is what took off, and that's kind of what I've been working with since. So now I sell all of my paper flowers through online workshops for Cricut and Silhouette over on my website, and they're full online workshops that show you what to do with your cutting machine, what to click, and exactly how to assemble the flowers, so you don't run into all those problems that I ran into when I was first started my paper flower journey.
Do you regret that you had to sell the digital files, or are you glad for that change?
No, I'm really glad. Now I will say it's not like all rainbows and sunshine. There's definitely a lot of work that comes to digital files. I think some people think it's like, because it's digital, like it doesn't take as much time, or it's not like, I think people have a hard time wrapping their mind around it sometimes. But I am really thankful that I did that, because what's nice about the digital product is you put a lot of time into it up front, but you create it once and then it can sell over and over and over again. Like you do have to do a lot of work to market it, but if you do it right, that one product can sell over and over and over. Yeah. Versus now that I'm back in the States, I have started dabbling into the physical product again, and I do love it, but I'm only one person. Each flower takes, some of them take 20 to 30 minutes to make. So I can only make so many flowers in a day. It's just not as scalable as the digital side is. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages, I guess.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good. So I think it's interesting that you started in basically the party planning space. That's
Mhm.
really where you're at. Do you feel like you're still in that space, or do you feel like you're a little bit broader reach now?
No, I feel like I've kind of completely stepped away from that. My what I'm most well known for is the paper flowers. I do have some card designs and I like to make the cards also, and I'm looking to kind of ramp that up a little bit more. But I'm definitely more known for the paper flowers just because I do think that they're a little bit broader. Like they can be used for party stuff, and I do that. They can use for decorations in your house. They're really great for gifts. Um, so I think even though the paper flowers are very niche, they serve a broader audience, I guess. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I love it.
Mm.
Um, as we kind of wrap up here, like, are there what's the advice you would give a designer who's trying to get started and doesn't know kind of like where to get going?
I would say, and this is going to sound so counterintuitive, don't look at what other people are doing. Like, don't get inspiration from other designers because your stuff is just going to look like theirs. When you're trying to creatively come up with something, and if you're looking at other people's, it's going to be impossible to get that out of your head. So when I'm making the flowers, I don't look at how another designer created her, I don't know, Juliet Rose or whatever. I'm going to look at a real Juliet Rose, take inspiration from that, and create my version of that. Now, if you're really stuck, like it's okay, to look at different inspiration, but never just take from one place. Take it from 5 different things. Maybe you like, I don't know, if you're designing a card, maybe you like, we're in Christmas right now. So maybe you kind of like the way the wreath was done on that card, but you like the way the font is done on that card. Like kind of combine elements to make it your own. Just never just look at someone else's work, though. You have to make it your own, because if we all look the same, then that's not good.
Yeah. And
There needs to be
you'll really
differentiation.
struggle. That's the other thing. You'll just
Yeah.
simply struggle. I think there's a lot of copycatting that does happen. And then they're like confused about why they're not making money. And it's like, listen, like people want to follow people, right? And
Mhm.
people want to follow like and see what you're doing that's unique and different in your own space. So I really love that. We tell in our programs, we always say modeling is great just because, and especially model from history, right? Like you love William Morris stuff, great. Like go learn more about the arts and crafts movement. And so I think that helps a little bit. I think sometimes people get a lot of inspiration from Instagram. And once in a while, I'm kind of like, just get off of that. Like, just
Yeah.
get off social media. It's not going to really help you.
No, I find especially when we're in a season, I get overwhelmed because I'm like, oh, that's such a good idea. Like, oh, I want to create, that's such a good idea. I should also create like a gift wrapping something. And like, oh, that's cute. I should create a paper flower wreath. Like you can just start getting pulled in too many directions.
Yeah. Well, pulled in directions. And then the other thing we find, and I don't know if it affects you at all, but one of the things we see in our designers is then there's comparison and imposter syndrome, which I'm always like, okay, like you just have to stop looking at social media
Yeah.
altogether. That's not going to
Yeah.
help you.
For sure. I know personally, I have, even artists that I love, I've either gone through and unfollowed or muted just so I don't see it. Like, huge fan of the work. I still want to support them, but it's better for my creativity and my mental health to just not see it. So, those are just some helpful tips if you feel like you're starting to get overwhelmed, because I mean it's easy to say, oh, I just won't open the app today. No, you're still going to open it. Even if I put all of those timers on my phone that's like, you have 15 minutes left, I'll still hit the okay, ignore time limit.
Yeah, so true. You know
Yeah.
what I love? Like you guys, like Farron's been around for a little while. I've been around for a little while. And like it feels really real. Like it's something that I think designers really fight against. And I just think that like if you're in that space of comparison or in that space of like you're not sure how to model people because you're worried you're going to copy them, is get your eyes off social media. Just like take like, and you're like, well, but then how do I find inspiration? Oh my gosh, you guys, like live in the real world. That I was just like, just go to a museum, go to the park, like get inspiration. I loved when she was saying like a Juliet, like go find a real Juliet rose. I think so many times, like, I'm a fabric designer. Like people will go look at other fabric designs for inspiration. I'm like, or you could go to a rose garden and get inspiration, right?
For sure. I think as much as like moving to a different country and starting a business at the same time was like kind of crazy. I'm so thankful for that experience because the Netherlands is known for their flowers. They have I don't know if people are familiar, but they're known for their giant tulip fields. I mean, it's tulips for days. They have amazing flower market. So I was really lucky to live somewhere where I had really good access to amazing flowers. So I got a lot of my inspiration from there. So I think your environment can be really helpful for your creativity. And now that I'm back in Seattle, I'm actually very lucky to live somewhere that has great flowers here too. We've got great local farmers markets, and we actually have our own tulip fields also up in the Skagit Valley. So, and it's funny because those farms up there were actually founded by Dutch farmers too. So it's like a little bit of the Netherlands up there in the mountains. Yeah.
I've never been to Amsterdam, but ironically, I have a CEO meetup in Amsterdam in May of 2024. So I'm really excited because we're going to go for a week and do a number of different things. But
after this, I'll give you a little list of things to do while you're there. I love Amsterdam. It's like, even though I lived in the Netherlands, it's like one of my favorite cities in Europe. And like, just don't, I mean, it's got, it's bad reputation, certain parts, just don't go there. There's so many other cute parts of the city. It's so charming. I love it there.
I am so excited now. That's so awesome. Okay, we're going to wrap things up. Farren's actually going to do a guest expert for us for Design Suite. So we're really excited about that. But for you guys here on the podcast or on YouTube, if you want to go check out Farren's work, and it is beautiful, where can they find you, Farren?
So on my website, it's my name. I'll spell it out for you. It's Farren, F as in Frank, ARREN, Celeste, CELESTE.com. So it's just my name, Farren Celeste. And I'm also on Instagram at Farren Celeste also.
Amazing. And we're going to put those in the show notes for you guys so you can go check out her work. She does beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. I think you're going to be super inspired by it. And I just think if any of you are looking to, I know I have a lot of crafters on this, on both of these feeds where you guys are just crafting and making stuff. Sounds like she has some amazing tutorials for making the stuff and buying her files, which I think is really phenomenal. So go check her out.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say all the flowers that I make, you can make the exact same flowers I make, templates, and then all the video tutorials. But if you're brand new to flowers or brand new to cutting machines, on my website, I also have an intro to paper flowers course, and it's free. You can just sign up for that too.
No, guys, so good. You should go check that out. So good. Thank you so much, Farren, for being on. We've loved having you. Go check out the notes, and we will see you guys soon.